Welcome back to Gut Check Time. I am your host. Today we'll be talking about NCAA Week 9, College Football Week 9. And this will be gambling picks as usual. Can you please hit the like button if you like the video at any point, and subscribe down below if you want more content like this in the future. Thank you. I'm 37, 35, and 1 on the year. I had a really bad week last week. I went 3 and 9. Straight up picks, 91, 21. So good there. Again, just picking the top 25 games. So that's semi easy. It's getting harder as the weeks go on because there are more top 25 matchups, more in conference matchups. It's a lot harder. Um, like I said, 3 and 9 last week. Not good. I'm going to try to do better this week. I probably will do better. That was my worst week of the season. OSU versus Wisconsin. Noon, Ohio State ranked, Wisconsin ranked. Both in the top 15. Ohio State is a 14.5 point favorite at home. I'm going to take Ohio State to cover that spread. I'm going to take them to cover that spread because they have a top 5 offense and they have a top 5 defense. Wisconsin's defense is spectacular. 4 shutouts on the year. Only team to do that in the past 50 years of college football. Actually, I think there's been one other team. I believe it was in the 60s at some point. I don't know who it was. So 2 teams in the past 50 years of college football or 60 years of college football history have done that. 4 shutouts in a year. And they could get another one down the road. I mean, they play, I believe, if they play Indiana or Maryland or any team like that, I think they could get another shutout. Obviously, they slipped up to Illinois last week. I think that was a classic spot of looking ahead. But let me tell you, national championships teams don't look ahead. And if they do, they always squeak out the win. This isn't a national championship team. It's a very good team. It's one of the best teams Wisconsin has ever had. It's not a national championship team. I thought that before the loss. I think it now. They don't have a quarterback. What they are a less talented version of LSU. They have a very good defense, an average at best quarterback, and a great offensive line. LSU's had that for the past decade and not won a national championship in that decade. They've only appeared in one, and they got their butt spanked in it. I'm taking Ohio State to win this game 34-17. I think it's going to be a carbon copy of the Michigan State game. The only difference is Wisconsin has weapons on offense. Michigan State doesn't. And when I mean weapons, they have Jonathan Taylor, the ultimate weapon, but it's not going to be enough. Like I said, 34-17 Ohio State. The over-under here is 48.5. I'm taking the over because that gets you to 51 points. And I'm taking Ohio State minus 14.5. Next up, Penn State versus Michigan State. I'm going to take Penn State. Michigan State coming off a bye, coming off that Wisconsin loss. Michigan State, again, great defense, terrible offense. One of the worst college football offenses I have ever seen the past 2 years. It's atrocious. Ryan Lewerke is a bad college football player. Terrible. Atrocious. Not good at all. Don't know how he's on scholarship. There are people you can find on the street that can play quarterback better than him, and I'm sure of that. I've watched him enough. He's terrible. He's just god awful. Now this is a prime letdown spot for Penn State. You know, they came into this game after the Michigan game, wide out, won that game, got up big in that game, and then kind of let it slip through their fingers, but ended up winning 28-21. And I would pick Michigan State to cover this game, maybe even to win, if they had an average college football offense. They don't. And their defense is going to be on the field a lot in this game. And Penn State has good defense. So I'm taking Penn State -5 here. I don't care if it's prime letdown spot. Prime letdown spots are for teams that are at least average college football teams. Michigan State is not an average college football team. I'm taking Penn State to win this game 27-17. So take the over here. The reason I think it goes over is because I believe there's going to be a defensive touchdown by one of these teams. So that adds 7 points to it. I don't think either of these teams are going to get going on offense that much. But eventually Michigan State, just like the Ohio State game, will break at some point because they've been on the field so long. So I'm taking Penn State 27-17. I'm taking Penn State -5 and the over 43 points. Next up, we have my Longhorns, University of Texas versus TCU. Listen, it was an embarrassing game last week versus Kansas. Giving up 48 points to Kansas is embarrassing. But again, we are decimated on defense. People do not understand this. We have a walk-on running back, that just got a scholarship this past month, play defense. They moved him to linebacker and had him there on the last drive. He's our 8th string linebacker playing. Our defense is decimated. And I know what this team was coming in the year. thinking we're going to be a college football playoff team or anything like that. I thought we'd be ranked between 10 to 15. I thought we could win the Big 12, which we still can. And if we had to go past anyone other than our ones in certain areas, number twos on the depth chart, we're going to be in trouble. We don't have elite depth. We have a very good starting 22 players with 3 to 4 backups in there. So 26 to 27 guys that you trust. After that, you're not good. And guess what? Elite teams that get in the college football playoff and win the national championship are at least 35 deep. There are 35 guys you can put out there, offense and defense combined, and be like, we can win a national championship with these guys. So that allows you to have 7 to 8 injuries at one time. Where a team like us, if we have 7 to 8 injuries, there are 3 or 4 guys out there you don't trust. You don't know what they're going to produce. And that's the problem. If Texas, just like a video game, if you could turn off injuries, I think we're a top 10 team. I think we could beat anyone in the top 10. When we have injuries, we're not. We're just not a very good football team because we don't have elite depth yet. Next year, if we get another top 5 recruiting class, I expect that. Because that's another top 5 recruiting class. That'd be 3 in a row. You should have elite depth by that point. Then that's up to coaching. But I'm going to take us to beat TCU. I think this is an overreaction. TCU's not a good football team, and they can't expose our weaknesses. Max Duggan's only completing around 58% of his passes on the year. He's not a great throwing quarterback. He is great running. We have to contain him in the pocket. If we don't, then we could lose this football game. I think we win this game, though, 34-30. So take Texas -1 and take the over of 57 because that gets you 64. Next up, we're going to have Auburn versus LSU, the Battle of the Tigers. I think LSU's the best team in the country, not named Ohio State. I think Ohio State's the best team. LSU's a very good football team. Like I said about Texas, they kind of have the same problem on defense. They have a little bit more depth, though, but they're a little thin on that side of the ball, depth-wise. But the thing is, they're 2 deeps in the secondary are insane. And when your secondary is that good, your front four doesn't have to be great. And once you get past their first 5 guys on the defensive front, they're not great. But again, their secondary has pros all over it. They're good enough on defense, especially with the offense they have now. They have 3 NFL wide receivers and an NFL quarterback. By the way, I think Joe Burrow should be the number 1 pick for the reason of ball placement. Throw the ball in a certain place to allow only your receiver to catch it. And I've seen it all throughout the year with him. You deserve to go number 1. All I see from Tua is posts, slants, and go routes. Not good enough in the NFL. He does that because he has elite NFL talent at wide receiver. Joe Burrow has talent at wide receiver. It isn't Jerry Jeudy, it isn't Henry Ruggs, and it isn't Devonta Smith. Those guys are going to be in the first round. Maybe Devonta Smith falls to the second round, but that's three first and early second round wide receivers. I think LSU probably has bottom of the first round, maybe bottom of the first round, and then second and third round wide receivers. And it's the placement of the football. He's completing almost 80% of his passes. He's 79 point something percent. The record is 77% on a year. I think he can beat that. He's spectacular. I think LSU wins this game 40-23. So take the over 58.5 points and take LSU -10.5. Washington State versus Oregon. Washington State has covered 9 straight times versus Oregon and beaten them 4 times in a row. It's different this year, though. Washington State's offense is not as good in the past. They're still good, but again, you can't look at the numbers. When they play good defenses, they aren't as good. I'm going to take Washington State, though, to cover the game for this reason. Oregon is coming off a win at Washington, a very big win, and I think Washington State can put up points. Washington put up points, and Washington State is probably just as good on offense, I would say. So I'm going to take Oregon to win this game, 41-28, but I'm going to take Washington State to cover. I'm taking Washington State +14, and the over here is 67.5. I'm taking the over. I think it barely gets over. That's, what is that? That'd be 41. That'd be 69 points. So it gets over by 1.5 points. I just think Oregon won't be able to slow them down enough to keep them under that number. And then a surprise game for me, Notre Dame versus Michigan. I thought Notre Dame would be favored in this game. It's not. They're not. I thought Notre Dame would be favored in this game. They're not. It's a pick 'em. I'm taking Notre Dame to win this game, though. I don't think Michigan's figured it out last week. I think Penn State kind of just let off the gas being up 21-0. I just don't believe in Shea Patterson. I've seen enough of him. I don't know how he was the number 1 high school recruit in the country for quarterbacks at one point. He looks scared in the pocket. If you get pressure on him early, he assumes there's going to be pressure on every drop back, and that is not a good thing to do. because as a quarterback, when you do that, you're going to start looking down and trying to run, and your wide receivers may come open and you'll miss them. Or you may just drop back to pass and assume there's pressure and escape the pocket and actually run into pressure, or even throw it away and get an intentional grounding, or throw it up. There's really not many good things that happen when you assume there's pressure when there's really not. So if Notre Dame can get to them early, they're going to win this game rather easily. I don't think they will get to them early, though. I think that'll take a while, especially their defensive front is not as good as it was last year because of the losses of Jerry Tillery and Drew Tranquill at linebacker. I'm taking Notre Dame to win this game, though, like I said, 23-20. I think it's a relatively low-scoring game. I think both these teams have pretty good defenses, not great defenses. And both their offenses are just not that good. I think Ian Book's just a little bit better version of Shea Patterson. I think he has a little bit more poise. I think if Ian Book could give his poise to Shea Patterson, they look the exact same, to be honest with you. I don't think there's really much difference between the guys. They don't have great arm talent. They're kind of small. They run around a lot. And they can be inaccurate at sometimes. Sometimes they can be very accurate. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win this game, 23-20. I'm taking the under of 49.5 points. That'll do it for the gambling picks. Now we'll just go to the straight up picks. App State versus South Alabama. App State's favored by a lot in this game. I'm taking App State. Iowa versus Northwestern. I think Iowa wins the game. I don't think Northwestern, from what I've seen at all, they have enough offense. Typical Big Ten team. Terrible offense. Okay defense to good defense. I'm taking Iowa, the better offense in this game, and the better defense, so it's pretty easy. Oklahoma versus Kansas State. I think Kansas State hangs in there for a while, but I think Oklahoma has enough athletes where they just sprint to the finish line and end up winning this game by probably 3 to 4 touchdowns. Maryland versus Minnesota. If I had to pick an upset in the top 25, it'd be this one. I can't do it, though. If this was at Maryland, I would probably take it. But I'm going to take Minnesota to win. It's going to be closer than people think, though. There's no way Minnesota should be favored by 16.5 points. So I would definitely take Maryland to cover that spread, especially if you put it in a parlay and tease it to where you can get it up to 23.5. You definitely take Maryland there. Iowa State versus Oklahoma State. Iowa State favored by 10.5. Iowa State rolls in that game. I think Iowa State is pretty much a carbon copy of Baylor, and people saw that when they played 23-21. Really good football game. And they played the same team that that Oklahoma State pretty much played last week in Baylor. Like I said, carbon copy each other, Baylor and Iowa State. Thing is, though, if that is true, where they are a carbon copy of each other, Oklahoma State gets two cracks at it. So maybe they learned something from Baylor and can use it in the Iowa State game. But I just don't believe in Spencer Sanders. He's way too inconsistent. That's to be expected. He's a freshman. But I'm taking Iowa State. Arkansas versus Alabama. I don't care who plays quarterback in this game. Arkansas is god-awful. Terrible. One of the worst football teams in the FBS. I'm taking Alabama to roll in that one. Next up, Boston College versus Clemson. I'm going to take Clemson to win, but closer than people think. Again, a 35-point spread. Not going to happen. Boston College will cover that spread. Clemson will win, though. Next up, California versus Utah. Another one, 20.5 points. California, great defense. Not a good offense since the starting quarterback went out. I think Utah does cover that spread, but barely. If it was 21, I would take California because you could probably get a push out of it and get your money back at worst, because I think at most Utah wins this game by 21 points. I don't see anything more than that. SMU versus Houston obviously already happened. I would have picked SMU in this game, but it was one of those Thursday night games. I think Houston, from what I saw, obviously in those midweek games, that team the underdog always plays above their head. SMU shouldn't be ranked 16th, though. They're a good football team. I think they should be ranked between 20 and 25, but they don't have enough defense. And Shane Buechele, I know him from Texas, can be God if you confuse him. That's the thing about the AAC, the bottom tier teams. They don't really do anything great at all. They have good athletes, but that's about it. And to beat Shane Buechele, you're going to have to disguise your coverages and stuff like that. And I think you can get him to throw interceptions. That'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. Please like the video if you did. And subscribe down below if you want more like this in the future. Thank you.